Hiya loves, and welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today's review is going to be of one of the final West End performances of Dear Evan Hansen. I managed to see the show on the 19th of October in the evening after seeing To Kill a Mockingbird in the afternoon, which I will be reviewing next week if you're interested. To say that there was a buzz in the air is an absolute understatement. You know, there's a huge hype around this show, a huge following, and when I arrived at the theatre, there was excitement brewing in the air. The anticipation for this performance was unreal. So was it going to live up to the hype that surrounds it? Previous to my visit to see the show, I had read the book, loved the story, and I had listened to the soundtrack as well. So I kind of had a feeling of what I would be in for. But obviously I hadn't seen the scenes that kind of piece them all together and make the full show. But I was really looking forward to seeing the performance. I was very, very much excited, as you can see from this picture. And I was even more excited because having not been able to see the show back in 2020, this felt really special to be seeing it in the last week of its run in the West End for the first time. So, yes. Very excited. To start off, let me read you the synopsis because this will give you an idea of the show itself and what is within it. So Dear Evan Hansen is a heart-searching musical about a teen boy so bound up by anxiety and loneliness that he makes mistakes he can't fix and gets stuck in the quicksand of social media adulation. But eventually, he finds a way to leave self-loathing behind. It's also about parents reaching for their kids as they disappear into their phones and laptops. And it's about the struggle to connect in an era when it seems as if we're all awash in emotional hyperbole online and off. Sounds like a fun time, right? I love that. So it gives you a really good idea of some of the themes within it. You know, there's mental health specifically within a sort of parent-child relationship as well as a young person's life. And I really was quite intrigued to see this family conflict on stage and how that played out with the actors' characterizations of the roles. So yeah, there was a lot to look forward to. It has to be mentioned as well that this is a Grammy Award-winning Best Musical. What? Unreal. It won 6 Tony Awards, or has won 6 Tony Awards, a Grammy Award, and of course the Olivier Award as well. It is considered to be a very profound contemporary musical, and I think in a way it's kind of set the bar for a lot of new musical theatre. You know, people refer to Dear Evan Hansen as almost like the start of a new age in musical theatre. That's really exciting. I was very, very much looking forward to seeing whether it lived up to that hype. I hope I'm going to say this right, but the music and the lyrics were written by Benj Pasek. It might be Ben, not sure, and Justin Paul, who actually wrote the music and lyrics for La La Land and The Greatest Showman. Now, when I found that out, I was not surprised in the slightest. You know, there's this epic sense of musicality within the musical, and especially, for example, This Is Me in The Greatest Showman. I would definitely compare that to You Will Be Found in Dear Evan Hansen. They have a same kind of weight to them both, gravitas, energy. It was, yeah, it made absolute sense, and I was very, very much excited about that because I actually really liked the music in both of those films, but especially in The Greatest Showman. So yeah, that's, you know, very useful to know. Now, getting into the nitty-gritty of the cast I saw on the 19th of October, we had Sam Tutty playing Evan Hansen. I'd heard incredible things about Sam, and my mum had actually seen the show with Sam in it already. She'd given me a lowdown. She'd said, look, he's incredible, you're gonna love him. So that was really, really exciting. As Zoe Murphy, we had Hannah Qureshi. She, I believe, is one of the understudies. I think she might have been the second understudy for Zoe, so that was going to be interesting. We had Rebecca McKinnis as Heidi Hansen, Lauren Ward as Cynthia Murphy, then Doug Colling as Connor Murphy, Rupert Young as Larry Murphy, and then we had Jack Loxton as Jared Kleinman. Finally, we had Iona Fraser as Alana Beck. So it's actually a very, very small cast, only 8 people. So in a way, there's a lot of pressure on them to really build strong characters and characterizations on stage. That's what you want, isn't it? In any kind of show, you want to believe the sort of physicality, the emotions that are portrayed on stage, and the overall characterization of a role. You want to believe it. And when there's only a few people in the cast, the pressure to do that is even greater than before. So that's, you know, that's something that we'll talk about in more detail. But to begin, I'd love to talk about Sam Tutty's performance, because my God, his energy throughout was just impeccable. He was very comfortable in this role, and he was very playful. He took risks, which I loved to see. I just loved watching him. I thought his physicality and the nuances in his physicality were very, very accurate for somebody who has severe mental health issues. That for me was very, very important, because being somebody that has mental health issues myself, if they'd have been wrong or inaccurate, I would have been a bit annoyed about it, to be honest. But he was spot on. Vocally, wow, he was just so in the moment, and the perfect balance between, you know, acting through song and just the incredible vocals that he had. It was just fantastic, to be honest. I really could not fault him in the performance. One of the first songs that we hear him sing is Waving Through the Window, which of course is one of the most well-known songs from the musical, and he delivered in every possible way. It was really, really faultless for me, and I felt that he was the glue that held the performance together. And then we had Hannah Qureshi as Zoe. Now, when the show first started and we saw Hannah as Zoe, I thought acting-wise, you know, it wasn't anything out of the ordinary. She fit the bill looks-wise. But then we had Requiem. Now, I know the song Requiem quite well. I've sung it myself, and I was a little bit disappointed, I think, by her performance in that song. I felt that the song was quite far out of her comfort zone. She wasn't confident in singing it at all. And those moments at the start where it's very much about the storytelling and the overall angst she's feeling about, you know, not really caring that her brother is gone because of how he treated her, I didn't really get that at all. That was really, really quite sad for me, because I thought there was a real missed opportunity. That's the first song that Zoe sings within the show. So yeah, it just didn't really hit the mark. As Requiem builds, we get to hearing Cynthia and Larry Murphy, which of course is Zoe and Connor's mum and dad. I thought that Lauren Ward, who played Cynthia, her voice wasn't the strongest either. However, she did have quite good control of it, and she was able to contribute really nice harmonies to the overall song. And then we had Rupert Young as Larry. Now, when they did sing a harmony at the end, all 3 of them, he was very, very, very flat. And it ruined it for me. I was already quite disappointed with the vocal performance from Hannah. Then to have that from Rupert, just, it added to the disappointment, really. It was not a good vocal performance, and I was very much on the back foot, I think, from that point onwards. It's a real shame, to be honest, because at this point we'd only got part way into the first act. So yeah, to be kind of put off in so early on in the performance is not great. It's not really what you want. However, I did really enjoy Lauren Ward's characterisation of Cynthia. I loved the dynamic between her and Sam as Evan. I thought there was this obvious, really, really well played and obvious relationship of Evan getting what he's not getting from his sort of relationship with his mum with Cynthia after Connor had died. Speaking of Connor, Connor was played by Doug Colling. Now, it's one of those roles where he's very briefly in it, but he can make quite a lasting impression if it's played well. And I thought that Doug played it very, very well. You know, he was this troubled teen, very angry, very much like didn't really care about anyone or anything. I thought that he really did make an impression at the start of the show, and when he reappears sort of talking to Evan in this kind of dream state that Evan's in, where he's talking to himself but it manifests as Connor, I thought it was great. He had a great voice. I enjoyed the humorous aspect of his part because it was a real contrast to when he's alive at the start of the show. And yeah, I just thought it was a really strong performance from Doug. Really happy with that one. And then of course I'll touch upon Rupert's performance as Larry Murphy. So that's Connor and Zoe's dad. The relationship between Cynthia and Larry Murphy has broken down completely. And through Evan, who tells the lies of him knowing Connor and then being best friends when they were alive when they weren't, they are able to rekindle their relationship. And I think in Larry's character, we see him sort of become more in touch with his emotional side through Evan. That was quite evident for me. I enjoyed that kind of finding of emotions and being more okay with it. I thought Rupert played it really well. Vocally, though, he was not the strongest singer on the stage, and it did kind of let it down a little bit for me because straight away could think of several West End performers that could have fit that role and sung it as well as they'd have acted it. That being said, I thought he was a strong actor, not the strongest, but yeah, good performance. Now, this was an interesting role. So we had Jack Loxton, who played Jared Kleinman. He and Evan are family friends. They're friends because they have to be, as Jared says. And he is in on Evan's sort of situation. He knows that he wasn't friends with Connor, but he helps him to create a sort of a bit more of a backstory and sort of materialistic things that can support this lie. I thought that Jack played it really well. His humorous side made it even darker, and I enjoyed that a lot. Vocally, really good performance. I believed that he was a little bit bitter towards Evan at times, and there was this sort of animosity between them. I just thought it was one of the stronger performances in the show, and yeah, really enjoyed his performance with Evan and with Connor as well. Second to last, I'm going to mention Iona Fraser as Alana Beck because I thought vocally she had a good voice, really good voice. It was quite consistent all the way through, which is good. Performance-wise, same again, very consistent. She had that character down. You know, this very much, she wanted to do everything within the Connor project, which was obviously this fundraising scheme to rebuild the orchard in Connor's memory. And she just kind of took over. It became her project, and she changes from being very like nicey with Evan to actually being quite a nasty person, really sort of highlighting how social media can impact one's sort of self-worth and how we just get sucked into it. I wasn't wowed by Iona in that role, if I'm honest, but I did think, as I said before, that she was very consistent. And I think when it came down to the group singing, you know, them singing as an ensemble, she was very strong within that. So fair play to her for that one. Finally, I'd like to mention Rebecca McKinnis in Heidi Hansen. I thought her voice was really quite special. not a conventional musical theatre voice, you know, not typically lyrical or anything like that. It had a lot of character to it. It was quite husky, but I loved that richness in her tone. I thought when she sang like she meant it, and every single person in the audience believed her, and you could sense it in the energy in the theatre. I'm even getting goosebumps just talking about it now, but I thought her performance as Evan's mum was so turbulent. Their relationship was so turbulent, but you can tell that she absolutely adores the ground her son walks on. Apart from Sam Tutty, I think she was probably my second favourite performer in the whole show. Just absolute, I take my hat off to her because she was brilliant. The overall casting, as we've kind of discovered, wasn't the best. And I must admit, I was quite surprised. I know that they've had quite a lot of people come and go from the West End cast in the time that it's been in the West End, and that's absolutely fine. You know, there's a lot of shows within the West End that do have quite a quick turnover of cast members, but there just seemed to be something missing for me, whether it came down to the actors' abilities or whether it came down to the direction. I'm not really sure. I just felt like there could have been much more real performances, you know, perhaps even more intense, and that really does come down to how it's rehearsed and the encouragement that the actors have to really find the truth within the text that they're working with. So yeah, for me, the strongest performers were definitely Rebecca McKinnis as Heidi and, of course, Sam Tutty as Evan Hansen. Moving on to the sort of design of the show. Now, this was quite interesting. You know, you walk into the auditorium and straight away the stage is pretty much bare. You've got the orchestra on the top left above stage level, and then you have screens drop down from the flies, and projected onto them are social media posts, and along with that you can hear the sort of notification sounds like little dings and things like that. Straight away it kind of gives this quite cold atmosphere, but in a good way. You get the vibe that this is going to be quite sort of tech heavy. I did find the lack of set throughout actually a little bit, I would have liked to have seen a little bit more set that added to the storyline. Yeah, it's really impressive that they did so much with the tech, but it's quite samey throughout the whole show. Adding a few set pieces into the overall set design maybe would have added to it. But that being said, at the very end of the show, you get a complete contrast where you've got this bright blue, sky blue background, and you've got trees growing from the stage. You have this utter contrast between very dim and then you have this hopeful, bright, vibrant blue. Of course, it makes absolute sense to the story, so you know, I'll let that one go. Costume I thought was very simple but effective. I liked the costume. Of course, Evan Hansen's striped polo shirt at the beginning is iconic. You can get pin badges from the show's merch desk which are pretty much that, and it says Dear Evan Hansen on the shirt. To see that was really, really exciting. I did like the costume overall. I found the overall staging of the show quite good. You know, the use of set, the way it came onto the stage, the way the characters used it and engaged with it was great. For me, the choreography in the show, you know, there were moments where it was fantastic. I thought it was simple, it was quite slick, and it was effective. But then there were moments where, for example, in two of the big, you know, songs of the show where the ensemble are all in it, you had the same line going from upstage left to downstage right, with them all sort of spaced out in a line, in a diagonal line. And they did that twice in the show, and I was like, come on guys, can you not think of anything a bit different? Because, you know, there's not much going on with the set. It's all grey really. You know, we need to be engaged visually by what they're doing with their bodies when there is that sense of grey nothingness on the stage in the set. So yeah, I don't know, like I found the overall staging quite tricky to sum up. Okay, so we have dissected the performances. We have dissected the design. Let's think of a favourite moment. I think for me, any moment where Sam Tutty was singing was a real highlight. Like I said before, he was the absolute glue that held this performance together. His performance was so detailed, and he'd taken a lot of time to ensure that his performance was real, was truthful, and I really admired that and appreciated that. But I think one of my favourite moments, of course, had to be You Will Be Found, just before the end of Act 1. Like I was saying before about the music and lyrics and how similar it was to The Greatest Showman, You Will Be Found was that moment where it starts off quietly and it erupts suddenly, and it made me very emotional, very, very emotional. It's a beautiful song, and the sentiment to it is very, very powerful for, I think, anybody watching it. We said before, there are these themes of severe mental health issues and the use of technology and how consuming it can be for not just young people, but people in our society now. And I think that song kind of summed the whole show up in one. It was really, really stunning. Oh God, worst moment? Do I have to do this? It had to be Requiem, and I'm absolutely gutted that I'm saying that, because I didn't want it to be. I wanted Requiem actually to be one of my favourite moments of the show because I loved the song. The vocal performance was really, really poor, and I think it's actually one of the poorest vocal performances I've seen in a West End show for a very long time. Whether they were just having an off day, maybe they were, they might have had a bit of a cold going near the end of the run, they might be a bit run down. I really don't know, but it was just not good. And I thought the overall storytelling in that song could have been 10 times more detailed than it was. So yeah, sorry, that's gotta be the worst moment. So, and my glasses are on my head for this bit. Based on that performance alone, there was a lot I felt that could have been improved and done better. However, I am so glad that I got to see it. I would have been so upset if I hadn't have seen it in the West End. Whether it'll go on tour or not in the UK, I don't know. It'd be really cool if it did, and I think it's one of those where I would see it again because I think I'd like to give it another chance and see if it was done any better. The music was one of the real highlights of it. I thought it was so well written, and I thought Sam Tutty vocally delivered his songs really organically and honestly. I loved his vocal performance, and his acting within the show was so nuanced, so detailed. There were a lot of elements of the show that I personally didn't connect to, and that's absolutely fine. But like I said, I would definitely give it another go. I'd like to see the show again. I think sometimes when a show has a huge hype around it like that, you can't help but be influenced by it. If I'd have gone in with sort of having no prior knowledge of this show, how would I have felt? Would I have enjoyed it? Don't know. Potentially, because maybe then my expectations wouldn't have been as high, but who knows. Anyway, that's the end of this review. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed. Please do comment your thoughts down below if you've seen the show. I really want to like it. I really want to connect to it in the way that other people have. So I'd love to chat with you further about it if you've seen it and you enjoyed it. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel. Like I said before, I've got another review coming next week of To Kill a Mockingbird, which is currently in the West End. Very exciting stuff coming up on my channel in the next month or so, so do check that out. Aside from that, guys, have a lovely day, and if you're watching this at the time of it coming out, then have a lovely Halloween tomorrow. Woo! Bye!